Hey, yo, YouTube, what's up? It's your boy Black Privilege. So check this out. I was supposed to have a discussion with brother BGS IBMOR about his Obsidian video in relation to black women and their ability to take care of their children. And the general statement was, are black people backwards? Is the black culture detrimental to our development? And I was going to take the latter position. I tend to do that a lot. I agree with BGS IBMOR on a lot of things, unfortunately. But ultimately, what brings me to you right now is BGS said that culture is relative, that you could take a pygmy tribe and bring them into a Manhattan high-rise, I'm a paraphrase, and they will adapt within a couple of generations. And that is a misnomer. That is kind of a misunderstanding of how the individual works. Brother BGS IBMOR doesn't tells you the why a culture of pygmies would adapt themselves to the high-rise culture. It's safe to say that if they do adapt, ultimately that they've destroyed their own culture and adapted a new one. And this brings us to the discussion at hand. Black people are a little bit backwards. Black people are a little bit stunted with their intellectual development. I am an Anglophile. This video channel, this Black Privilege, guess what? It came out of a desire to help white YouTubers attack feminists. Feminists were harping on white privilege, and I said, okay, fine. I will take a name of Black Privilege because some of the shit they say are stupid. And crazily enough, I had the name 5 years ago. 5 years ago. This is before Charlemagne's book, and that's another subject. I always just like to point that out. My problem with black women is not their parenting devotion. It's their direction. It's the motivations that they use to guide their parenting style. That is what I think is backwards. Now, I don't hate black women. I have a lot of respect for my three sisters, my three cousins. I'm sleeping with one right now, so, But the thing is, when we talk about culture, when we talk about conforming to the American culture, when we talk about conforming to the dominant white culture, you have to understand that the white culture have a set of principles. That is the survivability of the group, the productivity of the group, and the self-esteem of the individuals in that group. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are the values that make white people somewhat dominant. There is a taboo in our discourse that makes it almost impossible to outline what is a superior value versus what is an inferior value. To that, I ask you as a viewer, which is more productive for the community? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or money, hoes, clothes, fighting, fucking, and financing? You be the judge. I'm not going to make up your mind for you. You tell me. Black people, we have been given a raw deal. I am not one of these people who will deny the fact that the white supremacy corrupted our value structure. I will gladly admit that half of America's prosperity comes from the injustice that we face, in that white people would always use us as, Sergeant Willie P said this great analogy, white people used us as the gators in the moat. If you do not behave yourself, you're going to be thrown with the blacks, and that acquired a lot of productivity from the white people. Someone out there probably studied harder because he doesn't want his child to grow up in a black neighborhood. Racism was a great motivator for white prosperity. and that is part of the culture too. I cannot take that away from BGS IBMOR. But productivity, survivability, and the self-esteem of the individual is a means to its own end. I adhere to an American value, a Western American value of what it takes to be a proper human being. I adhere to a Western patriarchal standard of what children need. They need a smack on the bottom from their father and a kiss on the forehead from their mother. That is the patriarchal social contract, and I like to adhere to it. I found someone who could go along with me, because I cannot take someone who's excessively feminist. I cannot take someone who's excessively American. When it's all said and done, black people do not know if they should conform to the white patriarchal power structure. They do not know the criteria for the values that they intend to keep. And as long as that confusion is still going on within our community, I will always advocate for an Anglophile principle of life. America is what it is. It has its bad history. You cannot divorce America's negative history with the actions of what other countries were doing at that time. But America's belief in a gradual progression towards individual liberty based on respecting the liberty of people and allowing them to self-actualize. It cannot be denied that it is a superior value than what the incoherent ramblings of some lost tribe. I am a cultural supremacist. I am an American cultural supremacist. And culture is more importantly defined by the values of the individuals within that culture than the language and the customs of that culture. So sorry, brother BGS IBMOR, I do not agree with you that culture is irrelevant, that culture is malleable. No, it's not about the culture itself. It's about the values that underpin that culture, because those values have a tendency of lasting past one or more generations. And that's all I had to say. I wish I could have talked to brother BGS IBMOR personally, but I'm not a retiree. I work for a living. This is my job. I just changed over, and I thought I could have this conversation in the locker room with brother BGS, but you know what? Time is running out. I stayed for an hour. And if he, if he sees this, fine. If he doesn't, just as fine. It's your boy Black Privilege signing out. USA, USA, USA.